Thank you, Susan. Good morning. I sit in the Center for Digital Development, which is in USAID's Global Development Lab. And to introduce the perspective that I bring, I wanted to start with a story. Earlier this month, my 18-month-old son reached a major toddler milestone. And I wish that I could say that he learned how to talk, or that maybe he potty trained himself early, but that's not it. He threw his first real temper tantrum. Any guesses from the audience why he threw a tantrum? Go ahead and shut. What was that? Got it right away. He wanted my iPhone. Now, before you judge my parenting, I assure you, he does not get regular screen time. But despite this, he is utterly compelled by this device. Despite the fact that he cannot communicate in a full sentence, he knows basic hand gestures to navigate this device. And he is already growing up with the expectation that he can talk to my family in California, see them, babble at them at a moment's notice just by touching a button. Mobile phones, the internet, and other digital technologies have transformed the way that the world's economies, governments, and consumers interact with and engage with one another, right down to our youngest citizens. Today's conference is about data as a development issue, but we know that data does not exist on its own, and part of the explosive growth in data comes because of the devices that most of us in the audience are holding in our hands or in our bags right now. And so as we have this conversation on data, a crucial part of that centers around the choices and the questions around the governance of digital technology as well. My aim today on this panel is to provide the perspective of USAID, to talk a little bit about how we're thinking about changing our models to better integrate digital technology and to facilitate data-driven development. Why does USAID care about data? USAID's mission is to promote democratic values and to advance a free, peaceful, and prosperous world. We do this by reducing poverty, by strengthening democratic governance, and by helping people emerge from humanitarian crises to progress towards self-reliance. Accurate and timely information about the development needs and challenges of the population are absolutely important to all of those goals. We've seen, and there are already questions and possibilities that have been raised by the prior speakers about what the role is of data. We've seen that public data can drive better transparency, that can foster government to citizen feedback loops that will improve governance and public service delivery. We've seen that digital platforms for services and information, even in limited infrastructure environments, can provide improved individual access to economic opportunities and drive a more efficient private sector. We've also seen how data can provide more important nuances as we progress our development models to understand what are the subnational regional differences and to understand better the needs of underserved populations. At the same time, we know that these positive outcomes are not guaranteed. Data and technology are neutral. It's shaped and influenced by the people who yield it. This means that without good models of governance, without understanding, and without intent, data can end up reinforcing or even amplifying existing inequalities. If we think about detailed consumer information, that could be used by a government to better understand citizens' needs. It could also be used to create monopolies of information and stifle competition. Surveillance can be used to promote national security. It can also be used to silence valid political opposition. So how are data and technology changing the models at USAID? We think of the opportunity not just as how are we introducing advanced data analytics and new and emerging technologies into a developing context. We think of it as how do we change our models and our approaches to development altogether to more effectively deliver assistance in a world that is increasingly digital by default. Over 2/3 of individuals in developing countries now own a mobile phone. Internet usage is growing in developing countries at 5 times the rate of developed countries. And those two are interrelated. Increasing numbers of people are coming online for the first time through mobile phones. That has important implications for our work. As the world's largest bilateral donor of foreign assistance, USAID recognizes that it has a significant role to play. We are focusing on how we can better support our country, partner country governments to look for and leverage the gains of digital technology and data. We have the ability to learn from operations in over 100 countries. And we also want to help balance that to better understand emerging risks, such as threats to internet freedom and human rights. Across the agency, the kinds of questions that we're hearing from our staff and partners include, how do we better approach the use of technology and data to drive better programmatic decision making? What are the risks that we need to be aware of? Who are we leaving out or behind? And how can we reasonably expect ourselves to mitigate unforeseen consequences and deal with those as they emerge? We're also seeking answers to the question of how do we better equip our staff and partners to create a culture within the agency that allows us to both leverage new technology as well as to navigate the change that it introduces. There are many ways that USAID is seeking to drive data-driven development, from the 2019 policy framework that articulates the journey to self-reliance to our country-level efforts in country with our staff and partners. There are more efforts across the agency than I could hope to speak to in this short time, but today I wanted to focus on the USAID digital strategy, which is currently in development and will be amongst the most significant, the agency's most significant efforts to date to help advance digital development. In the draft strategy, we are aiming to help our staff and partners make informed choices about balancing the risks and the benefits that digital technology introduces. The USAID digital strategy seeks to advance partner countries' progress towards self-reliance by advancing effective, responsible digital initiatives that reflect American values, including respect for individual rights, open and competitive markets, and democratic societies. The digital strategy centers on two core objectives that are mutually reinforcing. The first is to improve USAID's outcomes through the responsible use of digital initiatives. This is done in two ways, by focusing on how technology is used in our programs, as well as how our partners are engaging with the digital ecosystem in the countries where USAID works. The second objective is to strengthen those digital economies at all levels, from a community level to the governments that we partner with and their private sectors. To achieve the digital strategy, a number of initiatives are beginning to take shape within the agency that will launch once the strategy is formal. These will fall under a three-pronged approach. The first is to strengthen digital ecosystems, and that will range from ways to mitigate cyber harms and closing the gender digital divide. We will also seek to default to the use of digital technology in our programs. And finally, we will seek ways to invest in our human capital to contribute to building the USAID of tomorrow. The digital strategy has been a lengthy and collaborative effort by design. We recognize that there are more questions than we have answers to, and we are seeking that engagement. We received hundreds of comments during the comment period, which closed in November. Thank you to those who might have commented on it. And it is intended to unfold over a 5-year period, and so that ask for engagement is open. We hope that people will monitor the site when it goes live and seek ways to be involved. I hope that in these brief comments that I've been able to convey that there is both the promise of data and technology and also the risks, but that we're not seeking ways to completely mitigate them, because we know that it's an evolving space. And so there will always be a policy lag to the answers or to the questions that are emerging along with the use of data and technology. Our hope is to seek a balance to that. And conversations like this one are absolutely crucial to how we collectively learn and advance that conversation. So thank you again to our host for convening it. Thank you to those of you here and online that are engaging, and I look forward to what thoughts and questions you will bring today.